Welcome back. We've just talked about arrays, specifically primitive arrays, and now I want to expand on some additional kinds of arrays. Those other kinds of arrays in Java we typically call collections. And so that's what we're going to focus on now. So I wanted to do kind of a comparison between arrays and collections. The advantage of primitive arrays, is that you can use them for both primitives as well as for objects. And so that's pretty flexible. One of the problems we run into with arrays is once you've specified the size of the array, you can't add to it. That can be pretty problematic. And there aren't that many tools available to deal with and work with arrays. However, on the collections side, there are lots of tools. Collections usually can scale automatically. So as you add values, as you add elements to the collection, they automatically get bigger. And you can use them only for objects. Now that's a little bit of a problem, but if you use the wrapper classes, and again wrapper classes are objects that correspond with primitives, then you can get around this limitation of only using objects. So when it comes to collections, basically they're like arrays on steroids. And I provided a list of the different types of collections or collection classes that Java provides. Array blocking queue, array dequeue, array list, attribute list, so forth, so on. There's tons of them. While they have some things in common, they usually store the data in very different ways. And so you have to be careful about which one you choose, because they will function differently. They do have some interfaces. Those interfaces make them common. Collection, set, list, queue, dequeue, and map are some examples of the interfaces they provide. And I've provided a link down there at the bottom that gives you a little bit more detail if you want it. Well, that's really all I'm going to say about collections. What I want to do now is to go through that DVD collection example, hands-on, that we went through before. This time we're going to do it using what's called an array list. Array list is a collection. It's very similar to an array, except it has the benefits of being able to expand and contract as you add and you remove stuff from it. We're going to do the same thing with the same requirements. Now we can't do this in Scratch because Scratch doesn't have an array list. It doesn't have the idea of a collection beyond what they provide with a list. And so we'll do it in Java only, but you'll see the amazing functionality that you can gain from using a collection. Well, we're back to NetBeans again. This time we're going to be creating that DVD collection again, but using an array list to do it. You're going to find it's a little simpler when we use an array list. Well, because an array list only stores a collection of objects, we need to approach this a little bit differently than we did before. The first thing that we need to do is we're going to need to create an object. And so we're going to start with a class, because all objects start with a class. And this is going to be a class that contains the data and methods for a DVD. So what I'm going to do is we're going to right-click here on our package, and we're going to create a class, and let's just call it DVD. And we're going to create some member variables in here, one called name, one called year, and one called rating. Sound familiar? Now, the other thing we want to do is we want to create a constructor. Of course, the constructor is something that gets called when the object is instantiated, and it helps to set it up. And so we're going to create a constructor. The constructor always has the name of the class. There's different ways to do it, but in this case, because we have a small number of member variables, we're just going to put them in as parameters to the constructor. So string name, int year, string rating. And then down inside of our constructor, we will set the name equal to name, set the year equal to year, and set the rating equal to rating. Pretty handy. Now, it's a best practice when we create an object like this to set these member variables as private so that you can't access them directly outside of the class. And then down here, we're going to create some methods. They're called getters and setters. And they allow you to retrieve data from the field or to set the value of the field through that method. And NetBeans provides a mechanism for doing this pretty easily. If you go up to refactor and then down to encapsulate fields, you can pick which ones you want to set getters and setters on. There's other things you can do, and then down here at the bottom you click refactor. Look what it did. It just created those for us. Okay, well, we may or may not use them, but I just wanted to make sure you understood that. All right, let's leave this for a minute. Now we need to create the class that's going to be our driver class. And so we're going to call this DVD array list. And we're going to put this in a public static void main. Now, in our last example, we got data from the keyboard. I'm just going to stay really simple here. But what we did was, started with an array. So in this case, we're going to start with an array list. We're going to instantiate it. Any time we start with a class, in order to use it, we need to create an instance of it or an object of it. So we'll name that object list, and then we use this keyword new, and this creates us an object. Again, this is an object of an array list. Now it's showing us red. That's because we need to import Java util array list. It's in the list here. There, now it likes it. Now we're going to add an object of type DVD to the list. If I type list and I hit the dot, the period, it shows me the various methods and whatnot that are available there. And the first one on the list is this add. That just simply adds an element to the array list. Okay? So we will need to we're going to add an object. So we can't just add DVD because DVD is a class. We need to add a new DVD, and then we're going to use that constructor, and we'll put in the parameters that we'll pass. So we pass the values for our movie. Heidi is the first one. 1937 is the second one. And G is the third. So that line just creates an object, populates it, and sticks it in our array list. Pretty slick, huh? Let's do that again. This time, we'll do the matrix. I think the year is 1999, and I believe it's an R-rated movie. Okay. And last, we're going to do Star Wars. I can't remember what the year was. 1973, I think. And it's a PG movie. All right. That was slick and easy to populate our array. Now, we're going to print the array. Okay, and this is even simpler than it was last time. We'll start with a for loop again. We're going to just do what we did on the last one. Array index. Set it equal to 0. We're going to say array index is less than. Now, on our list, there's a method called size, and that'll return the size, and then array index plus plus, because we got to keep adding to it as we go. And in here, we're going to system out print line, and we're going to take list, and in the list there's a method called get, and in that method we pass which row in the list we want to return. Okay, and there we are. Let me just clean up a couple of these lines because I'm OCD. Now let's run this thing. I'm going to right click, run, not debug file. Okay, let's try it again. That was me. Run file. Now look at the output it gave me. It gave me this kind of hokey lit thing, numbers, letters, stuff. Well, that's because we're printing an object. Now the computer, it doesn't know exactly how to print that object. And so what it does is it prints all it knows, which is the reference to the object. Now there's a couple of ways that we could solve this problem. One of them is that we could come in here and we could tell it to print the name, print the year, print the rating right here in this print line. But a little bit slicker way to do it is to override a function or a method that comes with every object, and it's called toString. And it goes like this: public string toString, and then all we need to do is return a string. So we're going to do this, name plus name, year plus year, and rating plus rating. So this concatenates a string. It builds a string that has all these values in it. Now when we save it, and we go back to our array list, and we run it, there we go. Now it's showing us the values that we want. So here we have created a really simple program that stores these DVDs and then retrieves and prints them. Certainly we could make this so much more sophisticated, including it just asking the user to type in the name and the year and the rating. But this is a good start. I hope it illustrates for you how to use an array list, how to use a class, how to use an object, and some best practices associated with using objects like we did with DVD, and these getters and setters, the constructor, and so forth.